Hey folks, it's Hooves of Doom, and Alia Acta Est is what Caesar supposedly claimed just before crossing the Rubicon and marching on Rome. And it means that the die has been cast, that he's placing all of his future in basically luck, in the potential for a greater gain. I mentioned this phrase because my hobby future is also in the hands of a single dice roll. Earlier this year, I created a chart system for determining projects. And this was detailed in the video, I believe is Collecting Abyss. And over the last couple weeks, the charts have been updated to include the new armies from AOS so that it's more representative of kind of like the current structure of the armies. So I can't really pick favorites. I love almost every single game and every single model that Games Workshop produces. I have some favorites over others, but generally speaking, I really want to collect them all. And so this chart system is comprehensive. I think it's like 8 pages or something. And every faction or game produced by Games Workshop that has a unique model is represented. And basically, if I already have painted models, those are, or rather, if I already have unpainted models, those are prioritized. If I've completed the army, it kind of gets scratched off, and so it'll be, eventually, once I've painted my entire collection, then I might kind of go back and I might revisit the projects, but it's all going to be random, and there's a lot of options on there, so it could take some time. I created this system mostly to keep myself focused, and so that prioritization is is kind of made up for me. So I don't need to really, because otherwise I don't know how to prioritize, how to work on some projects over others. There's a lot of half-finished projects, but they're kind of all over the place, and my instinct would be to go back and finish like my first armies, but that's going back a long time ago. And the reality is, as many of you know, I've kind of got myself into a jam with regards to how many unpainted models I have. But so when I begin a project, the idea, and I've kind of listed this all out, I'm going to make a few videos looking at the models I currently own, and then go through the models I want to purchase, because I don't mind buying new models so long as I plan on legitimately painting them. So I've been talking to my wife, and if I get any models for Christmas, I've given her like this big extensive list of models I could use in my current projects, and those will be painted. Unlike the ones from last year where I got a lot of really cool models, but they're from like several different armies, and I just I can't paint them up without painting a coherent army. And so they'll probably be waiting around. I mean, again, if I roll on them, I'll make the list. Because the chart is fairly extensive, and I know that a repeat project will be maybe could happen. I roll the exact same result twice, but I think it's probably likely that it'll probably take, given the length of time to create or paint the project, it could take also a number of years before I come back to it. So I wanted to make sure that it's fairly good representation, that it's not just a bare bones, something that a couple years later I regret and look back and it's like, that's not really a feasible army, it doesn't really work that well, etc. So I wanted to have, if I pick a faction, I want it to be fairly representative of all of the unique models within the collection that Games Workshop creates. And I think I also like to pick up some Forge World models for each project as well. It's something unique, something that makes it look cool. So wherever possible, I'll pick up 1 or 2 kits from Forge World and add that to the army as well. So a few of the factions are not going to be on the charts, or will not be a priority, because I've been talking with Mrs. Hooves. She started painting last night, or working on a project. I'm going to make a video about that, and I'll probably also talk about it in an upcoming hobby journey video. But mostly, I think she's on the right track. I think, we had a good talk about how to choose colors. I'm trying to teach her, the limited knowledge that I have. I'm by no means a master, but how to choose specific colors that match, and trying to plan out how you paint the project, right? So you want to work on some of the core elements and kind of build out, work on the things that are more, that require more detail work at the end and things like that. But I think she's going to do great. I think she has a great eye for color. I can tell you right now that she is more ambitious than I would be. So she's working on some terrain, and she wants to use some effects and things that I've never even used. So we're both going to be learning that together, and hopefully she'll continue on. But I think she's going to work on a few different armies eventually, right? She's going to focus on one, and if she enjoys painting, and I don't expect her to paint an enormous amount, but I don't want to roll for a potential army that she might enjoy working on. So I've kind of taken a couple off the list. So right now, my current projects are Cadian Shock Troops for 40k, and Free Guild or Free People Army for Age of Sigmar. And some of these factions in AOS are not particularly well fleshed out. So I have some Free People's models. So these two current projects are things that have had quite a bit of existing models. So this will cut down on unpainted models by a little bit. The next two projects probably won't, or one of them I know won't. I don't know what the fourth one is. But yeah, so the goal is to paint, I'll probably keep a good track of the number of models in the collection, the percentage painted and the percentage unpainted, and hopefully the percentage painted will increase, and so that it as I go forward, even if I buy new models, overall I'm making some progress to reducing the amount of percentage of unpainted models. I like to work on two different projects on the go, and I will be making some videos, kind of update videos on my Cadians and Free Guild as well. I think every project I'm going to plan about 3 or 4 different videos for. And working on two projects is just a good way to... So you're working with completely different colors. It gives you a bit of break. It's nice to change things up, so you're not just completely bored painting guardsman after guardsman after guardsman. If I switch over and work on Empire troops, they're fairly similar, but they'll have a completely different color scheme, and they do have a completely different look to them as well. So Khorne Demons is one of my future projects. And so the way I kind of work on this is I work on two projects at the same time, and then I also have an idea of what my 2 future projects will be. And I do that so that I can make purchases in advance. And Khorne Demons was already decided a couple weeks back. I didn't make a video for that, but I think I'm going to make a video of every time I roll here on out if people are interested. And the Khorne Demons is one of the projects. The other was supposed to be terrain, but because Mrs. Hooves is now tackling terrain, and I think she's going to do a great job, and I think I'll probably help her a bit with that too. So we'll probably be painting. I have quite a bit of unpainted paint sets or terrain sets, but I think we can kind of make some progress on those. And then I didn't want to do like another terrain project, 3 or 4 months down the road so quickly. I think if we can get the existing paint sets done, I'll be happy. I'm more than happy to do one a little bit later, but I just wanted to not quite do a terrain one, so I decided to re-roll my 4th project. So these projects could take some time. I think ideally I'd like to do about 5 or 6 per year, and if I paint really vigorously, I could probably achieve that. And not all of these projects are going to be huge armies by any means. Some very well could be, if I own a lot of the models or if I just want to collect models. But, like I said, some of the factions are not necessarily that fleshed out, so I might kind of join a few other little smaller factions to it, what have you. So, because it could take some time to finish the existing projects, I don't think it'll take that long to finish Guardsmen and even paint some tanks. But, I was saying that back in May of this year, and I still haven't quite finished it yet. So there you have it. But keep in mind, you might not see this particular project for some time. I would say at least April or longer. But I hope to, with school finished very soon, I'll have some time on my hands, and hopefully I'll dedicate that towards painting projects. That would be great. So let's roll. So the first thing to do is roll on the actual chart to determine what project it will actually be. So everything's just D6, nice and simple. It's a roll of a 1. That means that the 4th upcoming project will be an Age of Sigmar. So I got the Blessing of Sigmar here. Let's see what type of alliance it will actually be. I got a 4, which is the Grand Alliance of Chaos. Right here. So let's scroll down to that. Oh, here we are. So then, what faction within Grand Alliance of Chaos will it be? A 1 again, which is on the Dark Gods. And a 1 again. Ooh, I love those 1s. So that means it's the first 6 choices, so one of the core non-mortal armies. And a 3, which will be Nurgle Rotbringers or Tamarkand. Okay, so there you have it. We'll go back to the old video. Okay, well, there you have it. I do have, in most cases, I do have a lot of unpainted models for a lot of these factions that are prioritized. And Nurgle Rotbringers was a prioritized faction, but I only have 1 model that would qualify for them. An old kind of Warriors of Chaos Nurgle guy, who I guess would be like a Lord of Plagues or something under the new rules. I don't know. But he'll get painted up. But I'll also be buying a lot of other things. So this will be more of a new purchase type of army, which is fine. I don't mind buying new models. I love buying new models. I love collecting things I don't own. But the biggest thing about it is that they will get painted. Absolutely. So the core of the new army. So some of their projects, some of these will obviously cost more than others. If I own a lot of the pre-existing armies, if I had rolled for Khorne Bloodbound, for instance, I'd probably only spend maybe $100, and because I already own a couple starter boxes worth of them and a bunch of special characters from the board games and things like this. So that army is when I roll for that, that's going to be a cheap project to do. Nurgle Rotbringers is going to be a bit more expensive because I only have the 1 model. So if you're unfamiliar with that army, it's largely composed of Glotkin and the Magoth Lords and future Blight Kings as well. They're the battle line troops. So I'm just going to purely stick to things that would stick with Nurgle and Mortal. So all those have those keywords. There's no demons involved, even though they might be riding on a kind of a demon thing or whatever. The key is that it's specifically kind of a mortal unit. So I'm not going to use Chaos Warriors because those are Slaves to Darkness, and that's a separate kind of faction in my mind. So I'll probably use Putrid Blight Kings as core, and then I'll pick up a bunch of crazy monsters. So Tamarkand was also part of that, and I've since rolling on that, I've added him to a couple of other little smaller factions as well, because after rolling I looked, and basically the Tamarkand horde from Forge World, it's really composed of several what would now be several different factions in Age of Sigmar. So it's composed of Nurgle mortals, there's some Nurgle demons, there's some Slaves of Darkness as well, and a unit of Trogoths. So I will likely pick up Tamarkon, and the War Mammoth, for instance, is the Slave to Darkness, and it's part of his horde. I won't be picking up a War Mammoth. Maybe if I roll Slave to Darkness, maybe. We'll see. But for this purposes, I will probably pick up Tamarkon and a couple of his named characters, which they're actually not too badly priced, and maybe a unit of Plague Ogres. But so it's going to be a very eclectic, kind of random collection of really hard-hitting, big monsters, Nurgle craziness, which should be kind of fun to play with. So, because it's the fourth project, here's how this is going to work. And you probably won't see this for some time, which is good because it'll give me some time to pick up all these big crazy kits. Once I finish either Free Guild or the Cadians, I'll begin Khorne Demons. Once either that or the other of the first projects is finished, then it's Nurgle Rotbringers. And then I'll need to roll for 2 others. But that's the plan. And look forward to those videos at some point. Anyways, have a good one.